Good morning, friends. This is the next lecture, or you can say that last lecture of your first unit in the series of compiler design lecture. For this particular lecture, the prerequisite is same, that is Chomsky hierarchy series of grammar. Today's the agenda of this particular lecture is first one is the capabilities of CFG, second one is derivation and parse tree, and third one is ambiguity. Okay, we will discuss all these topics one by one. First of all, again, I am telling you about the context-free grammar, because if you are talking about the capabilities of CFG, first of all, you all should know what is context-free grammar. Okay, CFG is a notation that can be used to specify language. Okay, in this particular unit or in this particular topic, you specify the language, and language specified by a context-free grammar, that is called as CFL or context-free language. So how you can define the CFG or context-free grammar? It is a notation that can be used to specify language, and the language specified by a context-free grammar is called a context-free language. In previous lecture, we have also discussed that CFG is a four-tupled denoted as G is equal to VTPS. V stands for variables, or you may call it as the non-terminals. T is the terminals. P is the production rules or rewriting rules, and S is the start symbol. But that particular symbol will also be the member of your V, that is non-terminal or your variables. Okay, this is about just the introduction or the notation of your context-free grammar. For example, you can write like this. If someone asks you to write a grammar, in that case, you will write, there will be a production rules. There will be a grammar given to you, but the syntax for writing the grammar is what? You simply write G. G stands for grammar is equal to, first of all, you will write in parenthesis uh, V. V is variables or non-terminals. In this production rules that are written in this particular slide, S equal to small a capital S, S equal to small b capital S small b, and S drives null. You can see in this particular grammar that there is only a one non-terminal or a variable named as S. So you will write this S is the S is in V. Okay, then T is what? Terminal. You can see small a, capital B or null. These are the terminal symbols. You will write by separating the comma a comma b within the parenthesis, but null will never considered as the terminal symbol. Okay, so you won't include null in the terminal symbol. After that, comma followed by P. P stands for production rules, and the production rules are written in below, where P contains like this. Okay, and comma, then it is your start symbol. And in this production rules or within the grammar, you can see that the start symbol is your S itself. So such way you can write the context free grammar, or in other words you can say that this is the syntax of how you will write the context free grammar. Okay, next we will discuss this is your first topic, that is capabilities of CFG. If you are talking about the capabilities of CFG, first of all we will compare this thing with the regular expressions. Regular expression is what? Capable of describing the syntax of tokens. Okay, but CFG is doing what? Any syntactic construct that can be described by regular expression can also be described by CFG. Okay, for example, this is the regular expression and context free grammar. I have written the syntax of both, example of both, and you can see that both describes the same language. First of all, you should know what will be the language of this particular regular expression. The language of this particular regular expression is what? You can say that set of all the strings that either start with A or B and followed by any combination of A, B, 0, 1 including null. This is the language of this particular regular expression. Again, I am telling you, set of all the strings that either start with A or B, either start with A or B, followed by any combination of A, B, 0, 1, including null. Null is just because of this star symbol. This is the CFG. While you will calculate this thing, while you will consider all these things, then you will find this particular context-free grammar will give the same language as it is to be given by the regular expression. So you can say that these both regular expression and context-free grammar both describes the same language. Here we are giving the comparison between the regular expression versus context-free grammar. Regular expression just describing the syntax of token, but for CFG, I can say that any syntactic construct that can be constructed by, that can be described by regular expression can also be described by context-free grammar. Okay. These are the capabilities, or you can say that comparison between the regular expression and the context-free grammar. First rule is lexical rules are quite simple. Okay, and we don't need a notation as powerful as CFG. So as you are comparing regular expression versus CFG, you can say that your CFG is a very powerful tool as comparison to the regular expression. Okay, in statements you can see lexical rules are quite simple. So another capability or another difference is what? Your regular expressions are simple, your lexical rules are quite simple. Okay, and as far as the power is concerned, CFG is more powerful as comparison to the regular expression. You can differentiate both of these things between the two aspects. First one is the simplicity and second one is the strength, powerfulness. So simple will be the regular expression and powerful will be the CFG. Second one is it is easier to construct efficient recognizer from regular expression than CFG. You may call it as if you want to construct any recognizer, then regular expression is more easier as comparison to the CFG. Third one is separating the syntactic structure of a language into lexical and non-lexical part provides a convenient way of modularizing the front end of a compiler into two manageable size components. That means separating the syntactic structure of a language. Syntactic structure of a language means what? We are talking about the lexical construct and the non-lexical construct. Lexical will generate from the lexical analysis and non-lexical will generate from the syntax analysis. Lexical is what? The tokens. Non-lexical is what? That will not be the token, but now it will form the context free, it will form the syntax tree. Okay. Separating the syntactic structure of a language into lexical and non-lexical part provides a convenient way of modularizing the front end of a compiler into two manageable size components. Next one is regular expressions are most useful for describing the structure of lexical constructs like identifier, constants, keywords, and so on. This is all about the capabilities of regular expression versus CFG. The next capability is CFG on the other hand. This is the main capability of your context-free grammar. CFG on the other hand are most useful in describing nested structures such as balance parenthesis, matching begin ends, corresponding if then else, and so on. This types of capability or this task cannot be performed by the regular expression. So you can say that CFG are most useful for describing the nested structures like this. Okay, I have also written in next line these nested structure cannot be described by the regular expression. These are the two main points you can read from here. Every regular grammar is context free. In recapitulation or in prerequisites, I have already mentioned the Chomsky hierarchy series of grammar. In Chomsky hierarchy series, you know it very well that if a language, if a grammar is type 1, then automatically it will be type 2 and type 3. If your given grammar is type 2, then definitely it will be by default, it will be type 3 also. If your grammar is type 0, then type 1, type 2 and type 3 grammar also within that. Okay, now what you say, every regular grammar is what? Your type 3 grammar is context free. So a regular language is also a context free one. Okay, family of regular language is a proper subset of the family of the context-free language. Is it okay? Now we will define the syntactic specification of CFG. These are the standard notations of context-free grammar. In this particular, you simply know in layman language, first of all, I am telling you, you can read the slides according to your wish, but I am telling you, for example, if there are capital letters like capital A, capital B, capital C, up to so on capital X, capital Y, capital Z, those all are the variables, or you may call it as the non-terminals. Okay, as you can read the first point, capital letter towards the start of the alphabet of English language are used to denote non-terminal. Example ABC. Okay, lower case letter towards the start of the alphabet like small a, small b, small c, up to small u, small v, small w, small x, small y, small z, that all will consider as the terminal symbol. S is used to denote the start symbol. Okay, S is the start symbol, but it is not mandatory that if, for example, within a grammar your start there is no symbol for S. Okay, the start first of your production, initial production, for example, it starts from A. So in that case, that S denotes A. Okay, this is by default. S is used to denote the start symbol. Lowercase letter towards the end of the alphabet of English language like U, V, W, X, these are used to denote the string of terminals. Okay, these are used to denote the string of terminals. Last point is letter alpha, beta, gamma, etc. are used to denote the string of terminals as well as non-terminals. If somewhere alpha, beta, gamma comes, then I will tell you at which position when they act as the terminal or when they will act as the non-terminals. We will discuss this particular thing while we will discuss the notations or the representation of the grammar. Okay, this is all about the standard notation of your CFG. Next is derivation. Derivation is what? Replacement of an instance of a known terminal in a given string by the right hand side of the production rule, whose left hand side is the known terminal to be replaced. Okay, first of all, you will write, I have already told you about the right sentential form. In right sentential form, either you can replace the first left non-terminal or you can replace the right non-terminal. Basically, these are the two types of derivations, leftmost derivation and rightmost derivation. We have already discussed this thing in TOC also, but again I am telling you the concept of derivation. Okay, this is the leftmost derivation and rightmost derivation. We have already discussed this thing. Derivation is leftmost derivation if and only if every step of derivation leftmost variable must be substituted. If anywhere your leftmost variable is substituted in your right sentential form, you may call it as the leftmost derivation. As rightmost derivation is what? If every step of derivation rightmost variable must be substituted. Okay, now these are the factual points or these are the conceptual points also, like leaf nodes of derivation tree. Leaf node means what? We are talking about the terminals. Leaf nodes of derivation tree must be T star. T stands for what? Terminal. That is terminal or null. Okay, your leaf node can be null, but while you are considering the terminal symbol, your null will never consider into the terminals. This you keep in mind. In partial derivation means what? You have not complete the sentence. You are in middle of the somewhere. So you can say that it can be T union V star. T stands for terminal, union, V stands for non-terminal. That means you are having any combination of terminals and non-terminals including null. Partial derivation tree will read sentential form. This you keep in mind. If I am having the derivation tree, we will read it as a sentence. Sentence is what? That means at each and every leaf node there will be the terminals, and we can read the terminals from left to right. That will make a particular sentence, or you can say that it is a meaningful sentence. But if you are talking about the partial derivation, that will not be the sentence. You will call it as the sentential form. Okay. Every derivation tree is also a partial tree. Next, this is the example of your derivation. For this, consider the example, consider the grammar. For example, capitalist drives capital A, capital B. These are the productions given to you. And the string is small a, small b. You just wants to design the leftmost derivation as well as the rightmost derivation. How you will use this leftmost derivation and rightmost derivation? You will take the right sentential form. Right sentential form means what? Within the production, what will be the right side of the production? For example, this is the right side of the production. Capital S drives capital A, capital B. This is the right sentential form, AB. So if you are talking about the leftmost derivation, you will replace the first known terminal with the terminals. First known terminal is what? Capital A. Now you will find to make small a, small b, what you will, with the help of which you will substitute it, you will substitute this small a and capital A. Okay. And after that, in this particular place, so capital A will be the leftmost non-terminal. Now you will replace this one, capital A, small a. Now you required small b, but you can replace this capital A with null, because in second production you are having the production capital A drives null. So you will replace this capital A by null and left will be small a, capital B. Now you required small b. So there will be a production of capital B drives small b, capital B. You first of all write this one, small b, capital B. Now this capital B will be replaced by null. You will get the small a, small b. This is all about the leftmost derivation. And rightmost derivation is what? The opposite of the leftmost derivation. Opposite means you will start substituting the leftmost non-terminal, but in rightmost derivation you will start substituting the rightmost non-terminal, and you will get the small a and capital B. This is all about the concept of derivation. These are there are two types of derivation. First one is leftmost derivation, second one is rightmost derivation. In leftmost derivation, leftmost non-terminal will be replaced by the terminals. In rightmost derivation means in right sentential form, rightmost non-terminal will be replaced by the terminal. This is the concept of your derivation. Now we will proceed on to the derivation tree. Derivation tree is what? You must start with S. Okay, derivation tree, it starts with S. S stands for what? Your start symbol. Leaf node must comes from T star. We have already discussed this thing. Leaf node comes from the T star. T star is what? Terminal, because each and every leaf node there will be the terminals. And last point is every expansion must be correspond to a production in a grammar. This is the derivation tree. But what about the partial derivation tree? It is not mandatory that the partial derivation tree will start from this start node or S node. Okay. Every expansion must corresponding to a production in a grammar. This point is same as that of the we have studied in the derivation tree. Derivation tree is third point and partial derivation tree second point is same. Every expansion must be corresponding to a production in a grammar. Yields must be sentential form. I have already told you in previous slide that if you are talking about the derivation tree, you will read it as the, you will call it as the sentence. In partial derivation tree, you will call it as the sentential form. Yield is what? Yields of a derivation tree is a sentence, but of partial derivation tree it is a sentential form. This is all about the derivation tree. Now this is the last topic of this particular unit, that is ambiguity. What is ambiguity? A grammar. For example, you are given a grammar. That particular grammar, if produce more than one parse tree for some sentence, that is said to be the ambiguous grammar. Or you may call it as an ambiguous grammar is one that produce more than one leftmost or more than one rightmost derivation for some sentence. So you may call it as the grammar will be ambiguous. Now this is the point of inherent ambiguity. Inherent ambiguity is what? If L is what? L is a language. L is a context-free language for which there exists an unambiguous grammar. Listen to me very carefully. This particular point have some doubts. It will create the doubt for you. Listen. L is a context-free grammar for which there exists an unambiguous grammar. Then that L is said to be unambiguous. Or you can say that if every grammar that generates L, if every grammar that generates L is ambiguous, then the language is said to be inherently ambiguous. This is the difference between the first point and second point. Inherently unambiguous is not a term. Inherently ambiguous is the terminology. What it is? If every grammar that generates L, if every grammar that generates L is ambiguous, then language is said to be inherently ambiguous. This is the concept of inherent ambiguity. And this is the example of your inherent ambiguity. You can see this one. Consider the language L equal to a ki power I, b power j, k power k, where the condition is such that I is equal to j or j is equal to k. You can say that the value of occurrence of I and j are equal and the occurrence of j and k are equal. One can show that any CFG G for language L will have two parse tree on A power n, B power n and C power n. We'll have two parse tree on this particular thing for all but finitely many values of n. There can be the many values of n. One that check that the number of A's is equal to number of B's, and the another will check that the number of B's is equal to number of C's. Okay, this is the same point as we have written in this particular language. So what I am saying that every language, if it is generated a ambiguous grammar, then that particular grammar will be inherent ambiguous. Okay, this is all about the first unit. If you have any doubt, you want to ask anything, you can ask. Otherwise, follow this book and do the practice questions or the exercise questions of this book. There are many questions on the leftmost derivation and rightmost derivations are given in the exercise. You can do that problem, and if you have any doubt, if you want to ask anything, you can talk to me. Okay, this is all about the unit first. Thank you so much. It's all about from my side. Thank you so much.